the trees around a piece of residential property, you can actually reduce the value of that property in some cases as much as 15 or 20%. As it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, dollars do grow on trees. And what about this issue of your utility bill? Did you know the temperature here on a hot summer day can be 9 degrees hotter than the same street? I mean, in the same town, street with no trees, 9 degrees. What do you think that'll do to your air conditioning bill? Make it go through the roof, of course. Trees, good for business, good for the environment, good for the community. That's what sustainability is all about. How about this? Would you prefer to shop at a shopping center heavily landscaped with trees and bushes, or would you prefer to shop here? Now, I'm obviously asking you this as a rhetorical question, but I've been asking this all over America for probably 30 years. And one of the first places I ever asked this was in Baldwin County, Alabama. It's the southernmost county in the state of Alabama. It's on the eastern shore of the Mobile Bay. It's the epitome of what you'd imagine the Deep South to look like. It's beautiful live oak trees with Spanish moss coming down, big old houses on bluffs overlooking the Mobile Bay. Now, it used to be a very hard place to get to because the only way to get there from Mobile, which is on the west side of the bay, was across this causeway at the mouth of the Mobile-Tensaw Delta. The causeway is at sea level. It would flood all the time. So then they built Interstate 10. Interstate 10 is elevated above the causeway, above the water, about 20 feet up. And so all of a sudden, all this development starts pouring out of Mobile into Baldwin County, Alabama. And there's a road called US 98. It goes from the interstate. I-10 is in the north end of the county. US 98 goes south down to the Gulf of Mexico, all along the coast of the bay. And people started coming in, out-of-state developers, buying up all the frontages along Highway 98 and cutting down all the big live oak trees and putting up strip shopping centers like that. And as you can imagine, there were a few people who lived there all their lives who got kind of upset about that. So they went to the mayors of 3 small towns, Fairhope, Alabama, Montrose, Alabama, and Daphne, Alabama, and they said, hey, we think we need a tree ordinance. And they were like, a tree ordinance? What's that? They go, well, we think we ought to save big live oak trees over a certain diameter in the parking lot of shopping centers. That's all they really wanted to do. Well, you might have thought they had proposed the end to Western civilization as we know it by proposing to save live trees, big trees. The people who were against this were saying things like, well, no one's going to go to the grocery store anymore if there's a tree in front of them. What? I didn't really understand this. They were thinking like, well, you just want to eat anymore if there's a tree in front of you? You forget where the store was with the tree in front of you? Like what? I don't know. So somebody said to me, well, what do you think we ought to do? And I said, why don't you just ask people what they think? So they went over to the University of South Alabama. They hired them to come over and conduct a countywide public opinion poll and ask a whole bunch of questions, including the exact question I just asked you. They said, would you prefer to shop in a shopping center heavily landscaped with trees and bushes or one without any? Now, before I tell you what they said, just think, do you have any idea how hot it gets in South Alabama in the summer? So they asked that question, and what do you think people said? Well, by a margin of 92% to 4, with 4% undecided, people said they preferred trees to asphalt. And they did pass those tree ordinances, the first ones in the history of the state of Alabama. And by the way, Baldwin County, Alabama is probably the only place in Alabama today where a large number of people move to retire. Sort of the epitome of good development in Alabama. It all began with a discussion about one of the most important assets, their identity, as shaped by their live oak trees.